Hey guys, and welcome to Table Flippin' Board Games. We just finished playing ScrumBrawl, and if you want to see the VOD for that, it is up on YouTube as well. As always, it's me, Gillyweed, as well as Game Face Killa and Ogre Yonder. If you notice, we are going to do things a tiny bit differently with the discussions. I know that we had some really cool cutaways of throwing cards and all sorts of things like that, but we were finding that the editing of that was taking quite a bit of time for us to do, and we want to be able to provide more content to you guys. We had like sort of a break where we weren't able to do the editing for Eldritch Horror, and so we want to do more content. We want to play more games, and so we're going to try it this way and see if it works. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and other than that, let's get into this discussion. Do you want to start off, Game Face Killa?
Well, ScrumBrawl.
ScrumBrawl.
This was, I thought they could have added the word chaos somewhere in there. It would have been very apt. I'm not a big sports fan. I don't really like to play sports-related games, but, if you make it a fantasy setting and you can actually kill people, that certainly helps.
Yeah. It was designed by Victim Games.
Mm-hmm.
This game itself not very well known, and Victim Games as well, but you said...
Oh, and we found out that they were from Norman, Oklahoma, which is really cool. They're pretty close.
Yeah, we're from Kansas.
Yeah.
We moved to Texas.
I drive through Norman every time I have to go back to Kansas.
So hello!
Yes.
Hello, Victim Games!
Yeah.
Thanks for your awesome game.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
It was
I
a
really
lot of
liked
fun.
this.
I was surprised by how much more I liked it, even after reading the rule book, how cool things were at different points in the game.
So, I'll be honest, I went into this and I had not read the rules.
He's the only one.
Yeah, I'd started reading the introduction and read the backstory, and it was really cool.
I want to talk about that.
And then I set up the rest of this and the overlays and all that stuff. So, I let them read the rules and teach me the game, and so I went into this with just no idea what it was going to be about. And I really liked it. It's, I have to say, first of all, though, we have to say sorry to the Victim Games.
For butchering the rules.
Yeah. We'll play it again, we promise.
We definitely are going to want to play it again, but we did mess up a few of the rules. Another thing I'm sure we'll want to talk about, but sorry about that. We did still like it, though.
Yeah. And I think it worked out. I mean, I think that's a sign of a good game, is that even if you mess up here and there, if everybody still has fun, and it kind of still was pretty even for the most part, although there was one person who didn't score any points the entire game, No, but I felt like I was close on a couple of... I had an orb, and I also had almost enough skins to get a point, so I was close to 2 points.
You could have easily hopped up to 2.
If the game had lasted a little bit longer, you would have.
Yeah.
And he was almost to 2 as well.
Yeah.
And I think that with the Chaos Orb, had it been running the way it was, since it was on my least movement character, it's possible that it could have thrown it over to you guys, or you could have easily killed it. That was that's one of the rules that we butchered, was with the Chaos Orb. It could have thrown it clear away from the portal several times. Who knows what would have happened as a result of that.
So.
Yeah. Shall we get into it? What do you guys want talking about first?
So I'm just going to launch right into mechanic stuff.
Okay, alright, let's do mechanics.
First off, right from the beginning, I love the way that the board is set up. I thought it was really, really cool that there's no, map of you need to place these things here for this type of game, and you characters start in these areas. It's just like, go. You just play. From the beginning.
There is not much setup.
Yeah. So that's awesome. You don't even draw cards at first. You
2
just
decks, shuffle, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
and then it's literally like, roll some dice, place things, go.
So even though the rule book is pretty hefty, 16 pages
It's
or
actually
something,
not,
right?
Because hold on, so it's actually 13 pages. Yeah, and then the rest is the bestiary, and...
Oh, they actually have background on all the characters?
Okay, well, yeah, we'll just really fast talk about how amazing this rulebook is. It has all the stats and everything about them, but then in the back it has the events and some example combat.
Oh, nice.
like a playbook, and then as well
Wow.
as the orbs. And what's really cool is, if you remember, we had a question about one of the orbs.
Mhm.
Any of the orbs or events that have drawn questions, they've put in points for discussion, because remember, I think it was the killer orb. We were wondering, we looked it up, and it had the exact
That's
question
right,
that we had
yeah.
had about it in there. So they do have more.
Yeah, whether it was an attack or not. I think that was what came up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it is very based. This game is very based on the abilities of the cards and the orbs and the events, and so that can cause a lot of confusion and questioning, and it was really nice to be able to have sort of that extra resource
Yeah.
to figure things out.
I think there were a lot of shots of Game Face Killer.
Yeah,
Doing
with
this.
the book in front of my face.
We were back and forth like, wait, okay, what do you
Yeah.
think? Okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I really liked how the initial setup and just how fast that went. This game did a great job of making it feel like there's always something you can do. So on every single turn, you're drawing something that's going to be effective. So sometimes when you get locked in the number of characters that you have on the board, that's one thing that I might have played with a little bit, is being able to actually swap out people or just have them suicide themselves so that you can replace them with better stuff that you drew.
Yeah, maybe they could walk off the arena.
Right,
If
yeah,
they
walk
walked
out of the arena.
out of the arena.
Yeah. So something, not even like an instant removal, because that might be too strong or
Yeah,
something like
I think
that,
it would be
but-
too strong, but being able to walk out of the arena, because
Yeah, exactly.
only being
Go to the
able to
bench.
suicide your characters, by going onto the portals is
because
bit
Game
difficult.
Face Killer got stuck with a chicken at the beginning. And
Right,
although it was
right.
hilarious,
Mhm.
it was not very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the only creature I got, so I definitely
You had to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think it does what it intends, which is, do you want to keep something that has a really great speed, but has only a 50-50 chance of getting to use it?
Because
Well-
sometimes it's just gotta peck the ground.
Yeah.
Well, so I noticed that though, and at the beginning I thought, oh man, 6 speed, that's awesome. But we were, as the game went on, it wasn't that uncommon to find other ones with 5 speed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like 6 speed
Is
is
a
a
huge
huge
difference,
difference. If it had maybe 10 speed
Yeah.
and then 50% usage, then I could see the chicken just being awesome. And you're like, God, kill that chicken because it's killing us.
Just runs in.
Yeah, it just runs everywhere and
Runs
just grabs
off.
stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's one thing that I don't know. Maybe we definitely need to play more, but we need to see how that balances out. So I thought that was really cool, and
Yeah, it does make it kind of really dependent on your starting characters, the first few characters
it
you
does.
get.
And also where they end up on the board.
Yeah.
So,
And speaking to what you were saying about the idea that there's always something to do, I love the idea that there is the game aspect of it with the ball and the carrying it to the goal, but then you also have the alternative of you're always probably close to someone, so you always have the option of combating someone, which wouldn't normally in a lot of games. It would be kind of like a secondary, or would be a means to the end of getting the ball, or
Yeah.
yes,
but in this case they actually made it a victory condition that if you kill 3, you get the skin, and if you turn in 3 of them, you can get a red point, which is one of the points you need to win the game. You can't win the game only by doing that.
I think that's
Which is
really
cool,
awesome.
but-
You guys know that one of my pet peeves is games that force you to do something that's not the thing that makes you win the game.
Right.
Where you do this awesome combos and stuff to build up your great economy, and then you lose to
But you
somebody.
have to
Or are you
people.
talking about Eldritch Horror?
Yeah, maybe. No. A lot of games do this. A lot of games. Race of the Galaxy does this.
Or feeding your people.
Right,
I
feeding
think
your
is,
people.
is
Yeah, that sort of
I
thing.
understand it, but it's not my favorite.
Right,
mechanic.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I definitely understand why they do it. I just don't
The
really
realism.
find it fun.
But this isn't realism, so they don't have to do. This is completely
awesome. It's
not
just like,
realistic.
you can kill people, just don't make it the only thing you do.
Right.
Yeah.
You must, and I like that too, because the idea of the sporting. There's a motorcycle going by. The whole idea of sporting is that we don't want you to just come in and just kill people. You still need to at least participate in the sport a bit, and I think that's a good feeling toward it.
So that speaking of the sport part, the Orbs and how they were designed is
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
really
awesome.
cool.
As
It's
much
really
as I
cool.
hate that Chaos Orb, it's so cool.
And if we played it the right way, they
Oh
would
my
have been
God.
just out of control.
It would have been
So,
out of control.
for those of you who are slow on watching the VODs, the Chaos Orb, whenever you pick it up.
I'll just read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Relocate carrier, and then you just have to roll and replace. Anytime you pick it up, catch it, hand it off to someone else, or at the beginning of the carrier's turn. So
Right.
They'll just kind of warp everywhere.
Yeah, you throw it to your character, they catch it, and then they warp away. It's like,
And
bye!
then they'll warp again when it's their turn, at the beginning of their next turn.
And it's interesting to me because the randomness of the placement of just warping in places, not just with Chaos Orb, but with random placement, makes it so that the board never really feels stale, so you don't really feel trapped anywhere.
Right.
Although for a couple turns, you might have stuff like my stupid leprechaun over there who's just totally useless. He'll be over there, but maybe in a couple turns I'll get something that will let me swap him out, or he'll make it over there in suicide or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this board is entirely different from how we started. And there was never I started out over here, so I'm screwed for the rest of the game.
I like the portal movement.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the portals themselves, the goals move too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you score in a goal, it
Yeah.
moves, and then there's cards that move them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, nothing is permanent.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had set up static goals, it would have been...
Yeah, static goals would have been not so much, not so awesome.
Yeah. I think that the idea that literally nothing is permanent. This map, when nothing is on it, completely blank, just got squares, and then everything moves around.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I also loved some of the other things like the heavy orb. I mean, you have to really rethink your strategy depending on the orb that's out there, ones that are sitting on the ground, how to maybe even attack someone, or who to attack based on the orbs that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's so true.
And even at the end, we had, Gilly was doing an interesting play where she had two guys running defense, and her guy who had the orb was actually was running around. That's one of the
staying
first
out of
time.
range.
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of sports board games, but that's one of the few times I've seen something that kind of mirrors something that I've seen happen in sports movies.
Yeah.
Just for reference, Game Face Killa has a t-shirt that says, "Go local and or college football sports team."
Go local sports team and or college.
Yeah.
Not a
amazing.
huge sports fan.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever played a sports game.
Nope.
I do know the Fantasy Flight does have a blood brawl, football-like game. I believe it's like football. But I like this idea. I think that game is more based on you playing cards and having characters that kind of are manipulated. But this seems to manipulate everything. You have the characters and the orbs that manipulate, the portals manipulate. You've got instant events that could change everything or affect the board.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I didn't know if this is a good time to say this, but it reminds me a lot of, there was a game for the old NES system that was called Super Dodgeball, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. I'm not a big sports fan, but it's so cool to play the game because you had characters that had powers, and then you would get powers by doing certain things. And then you could hit players, and the players had special defenses that they could build up. I mean, this reminded me of that fun kind of sports chaos fantasy kind of thing all over again. And I think Nintendo continued to make those for different sports games like baseball and things like that. But
Their
this is
tennis
something
game was
really
really
cool.
fun.
Yeah, this is something really cool that you can see that is along those veins, goes along that same thing.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. I guess what I really liked too is the psychology of the whole sportsness aspect. It really does feel like you're playing a sports game.
Mm-hmm.
You do look at the strategy and like, how can I pass? What can I do?
Right.
My turns were taking forever. I'm sorry. I know you like short turns. I really feel like the turns weren't too long.
No,
though.
they weren't.
And
the thing was, they weren't long turns because of things that we had to mechanically execute.
yeah.
It was long turns because of, what is the best strategy in the situation,
Right.
which I think is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would understand if we are not super competitive. I mean, I get competitive, but we're, as a family, not super competitive.
Right.
And so what I thought was fun is we would help each other out. We would look and say like, okay, but what if you did this and this strategy? Like, this would be good. And I thought that was really fun. Even though we were playing a competitive game, we were still kind of working as a team and developing a strategy together, and we'd be like, okay, now I think that you should go here because you're the only one who can,
Right.
something like that. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, you do end up having to kind of make teams, especially if someone pulls ahead, which is one thing I do like about competitive games is they have these natural sort of evolution to the flow of the game, and this one has that too, where if you have two people who are behind by points, a certain number of points, then they can kind of ally together.
Maybe two people on one side of the table.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you guys was, what did you think about using a 20-sided die for combat? Did you feel...
That was great. Yeah. What?
Okay. I want your objective opinion. Because Ogre got ridiculous rolls, but at the end I was getting some good ones too. So what I want to know, and it's hard because we didn't really realize that you could alter the die rolls so severely. We thought you could only play one alter reality card per roll, and it turns out you can just play whatever you want.
Yeah. Of course,
just chaos.
I do know they have. I just noticed during the break we looked. They do have an errata site, a errata page on their site. So maybe that's been changed or something.
Yeah. Because I would like to know more, because it's constantly just no, I'm going to manipulate it. No, I'll manipulate it some more too.
Right.
No, I think that's great, and I mean, so we didn't play it that way at first,
chaos.
But yeah, well, and yeah, being able to manipulate constantly means the randomness actually matters less, because when it's random and you get a good result, or you just kind of don't care about the result, then it doesn't matter that much. But when it really matters, you have cards that fix that. So
did you feel like 1 to 20 was too much of a range? Like, say you roll an 18 and someone else rolls in 4. It's just, there's no way that you're probably no way. It seems like the alter reality 5 cards are incredibly rare. I never saw one. And then on top of that, you do, some of the stats are like 7. So do you think that the stats mitigate that enough that 20 is fine, or?
Yeah, I think the stats mitigate it, and also that, I mean, it throws back to D&D. So all the D&D stuff was all D20 attack defense based, and all your saves are D20, and it seems like, I don't know, I can't say why the designers chose it, but it seems like it would have been a natural choice just because that framework is already there, and kind of the bonus.
Well, they were using D20s anyway.
Right. So they're using D20s for this.
It seems like the stats are set enough so that it does keep it fairly even and not in the realm of like, okay, 19 versus 4 with your modifiers.
Well, and think about it this way. It's all a scaling problem, right? We could have a D100.
Exactly.
And we could have everything multiplied by, 5 from what it is here. And it would be exactly the same game.
So that's what I'm asking, is the scaling.
So I think that the D20 is appropriate because, obviously, it is way easier to handle than a D100. And it makes it more fun than something that's... So let's say you wanted to use a D8 or something that's smaller.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been able to have a lot of the modifier cards. And you wouldn't be able to have, a +6 versus a +7 versus a +8. Just because there would have been, it removes that kind of fine grain.
It gives them more range for the cards.
Right, yeah. It allows the cards to distinguish themselves a little bit better because, there's a huge difference. If your scale is 1 to 6, there's a huge difference between 3 and 4. Right. If your scale is 1 to 20, there's not that much difference between, 9 and 10. And so you can have a 9 and you can have a 10. One can be slightly stronger, but you don't have to, make it... It's not that huge divide between the two.
Right.
So, and I think that's great. It does mean that some of the cards, if you get a really high roll and they get a really low roll, then you can't affect it.
Yeah.
But in the situation where you had a smaller scale, then those cards to affect it would have either been way overpowered, and you'd never see them, or they just wouldn't have existed. In which case, it would have been the same situation. You would have felt like there's less to do.
Yeah.
Which I like that they went to the direction of there's always feel like there's something you can do, even if you can't quite make it. At least you can have something that you have a chance.
I do like all the mitigations. Is that like when you're, for instance, in the lead, there was a point when I was holding 2 of the orbs. I had a dispel card and an alter reality. I kept it, and it felt a little more safe because there were some things I could do. Now, neither ended up saving my dragon, but I at least felt safer. And my topic is psychology of a game, so I like it.
More cards helps you feel like you've got more options, more defense, more attacking.
That's true. It does kind of add to the whole defense side of the sporting event, being able to have those alter reality cards changing the die roll. I think it's really cool.
I loved the fact that the D8 is used to show the fumble, and that the fact that you can use that Ultra Reality card for those as well. For that as well. So you could, if you have a guy there, you could fumble it in your favor right onto you, and then take your turn where you're running it in.
Can we talk about how cool it is just to call it the Ultra Reality?
Yeah.
Instead of just like change a die roll, right? It's you're like, oh, and all of a sudden it fumbles this way.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I did. I fumbled it into the Wyvern.
You fumbled it to the Wyvern, and
then I was
the
able. The
Wyvern warped and then ran it in.
Was able to run it in. Yeah. That was very cool.
Yeah.
The plays.
Really
the plays.
Yeah. Yeah, if we'd had actual sports announcers for us, they might have, been able to scream a little bit as you were running in.
They would have. That would have been like, it fumbles into. Yeah. That would have been really cool.
Yeah. He warps in. He's only 3 spaces away.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Were
were there any powers that you guys thought didn't really work that well, or? That was one thing I was thinking
the leprechauns. Well, so the leprechauns, he would have been awesome if he got the ball, basically.
It's unfortunate that the only ball near him was the heavy.
Yeah,
that's like really
So I mean, so his thing is when defending, add D8 to his defense roll, and then he also has 8 base defense. So basically, you can't kill him.
Right. Right.
So that's that.
It would be interesting to see if he had come in earlier in the game.
Yeah. If he'd come in earlier in the game, he probably would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
He'd have been the chicken of your team.
Yeah. His movement's only 4 though. So
yeah, but he doesn't have to peck the ground.
That's true.
He's always
There's no chance of him taking the turn off.
Yeah. So
that reminds me of when I was in in softball, and I was t-ball, and every once in a while, I would like. No, I wouldn't peck the ground, but I would decide that sitting on the grass was one of those kids.
More fun than
I was just like, look at this grass, it's really comfortable. I'm tired of standing in the outfield. I'm just gonna hang out.
I'm sure I did a lot of that too.
Yeah.
So that reminds me.
My T-ball story.
Yes, your T-ball story.
Wow.
No. What was the other card that I thought was? Oh, there was Sticky Fingers. I had a Sticky Fingers enchantment that I discarded, and I thought it would have been pretty good, except that I didn't have... Again, there's another one of those like situational type things.
Right.
So Sticky Fingers, you throw it on a character, and it's an enchantment that makes it so they have +10 catch. Cannot fumble the ball, or they can't fumble or drop the ball.
Wow.
Or throw the ball. They also can't throw.
I was going to say, what would you do if you threw it and you missed? But okay.
Yeah.
It's cool that... that they have cards like that. The nice thing, though, kind of off that is that you do have the option of if a situation just doesn't work, you can then cycle those cards out as quickly as you want.
That was another thing I really liked. Yeah, that you always draw up to 4, and that if you don't like your cards, you just get rid of them.
Yeah, because there's so many games I've played where you're down to 1 card and you're only getting 1 every turn, and it's like,
Hearthstone.
Yeah, or you have a card full of, you have a handful of cards that you just don't
want.
Yeah, they're just totally
useless because it's situational. This stuff is very situational.
Right. Yeah.
But they've mitigated that.
Exactly. Sticky Fingers was situational, and I got rid of it. I was like, I'm never going to use this.
I like that this game has made me instantly want to play it again. Look how many orbs we didn't get through.
Yeah, there's at least 4 or 5.
And look how many creatures. We didn't see very many events. Like, there's so many things I just want to see.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Especially for a competitive game.
Because I'm not... Now, I did win, but I think even losing this one would be
now
okay.
You definitely want to play it again.
Because it's so random.
Yeah.
And chaotic that you just gotta go with it.
And now that we know the rules, well, so I mean, there's a couple parts to this. The setup is practically no time.
Yeah.
And now that we know the rules, it should go way faster even. So, and even though we didn't, we were constantly looking things up, it only took, an hour or 2?
It was like 2 hours. It was fast. That's cool. I think it could go longer.
Yeah, it could, depending on which orbs come out.
There were a few times that we were slowing down quite a bit because of looking up rules and things. I think it might even out.
Yeah,
maybe.
I really like the length. The length was a winner for me.
For a competitive game, you want them to be shorter.
Yeah. So you're not like, What? Oh, Twilight.
Tortured,
Twilight
yeah.
Imperium.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But one thing that I wanted to mention too about the game setup or the design of the game, the ideas of the creatures being cardboard stand-ups as opposed to actual figures.
Yeah.
You sometimes worry, or you see a game and you're thinking, oh, they just wanted to skimp on money because they didn't want to have a full figure or produce those figures.
Yeah.
But there's so many reasons why this game needs cardboard stands as opposed to actual figures. Like, for example, the colors of the names, the tribes that they come from is important. So you've got that color difference. You probably wouldn't be able to afford to have that as a miniature. There's also the fact that when you kill one, you use that to keep track of how many skins you have.
Yeah.
So you actually throw the orb in with the figure.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
you can just put the orb in.
Right.
With
Yeah. So you can see who's holding the orb at any time. The other thing, it just seems, and it works, and they're a little bit harder. They're a little bit thicker than a normal card. So they're kind of between a card and an actual like token piece.
Yeah.
So it's nice. They're pretty durable. They're cool looking, and you got these piles. You're going to have a lot of monsters to be able to play throughout the whole game.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
So,
if they're figures, you probably wouldn't have so many.
Yeah, or they kind of take up a lot of space.
Oh yeah.
And so if you're drawing cards and switching these out, I mean, it's just it would be a mess to keep track of. But this is so much more manageable with these decks of stand-ups, and I think this is one of the first games that I'm appreciative of the stand-ups as opposed to figures. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel on that the art style totally mitigates not having the cool. I don't feel skimped at all. The art is really cool. It looks kind of cell shaded, which I know it's not. We talked about that. But I'm such a big Zelda Wind Waker fan that anything that looks remotely like it, I'm like, oh gosh, this chicken looks so cool. I loved the art. I think that it's really cool, and the text on it on the cards is still kind of like this old fantasy. So it still evokes the whole fantasy idea and keeps it being more of a fantasy sports game instead of just a sports game.
Right. And the lettering kind of reminds me of the old 80s video games you used to see on the arcade games like Joust. And
Yeah, it does look like Joust.
It does look like
the
Joust.
lettering. So it's that cool 80s fantasy.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
I like it.
Yeah, you can really tell that a lot of the care went into because there are a lot of stats on the monsters, and and even though the stats make sense and it's really cool that they have that many stats. It is tough to keep track of, or maybe picking a monster to get rid of as opposed to keep was a little difficult for me. I don't know if you guys had trouble with that. I was kind of going for high attack or defense or move depending on how the game was going. But it's really cool that they have all the stats because then you've got the possibility of being a good thrower or catcher but not a good attacker, being a good mover but not a good attacker or throwing.
That's something that I was worried about at the beginning was that I got the creature cards and I'm like, holy crap, there's so many stats. It's going to be a numbers game. We're just going to be sitting here forever trying to figure these things out. And really, it doesn't, they have everything worked out in just the right way. So it does not feel like, all these numbers have huge effects on everything else. It's not like D&D stats where, your intelligence modifier chains into all this other stuff. You have to compute all these different things. It's just like, if you're attacking, use this number. If you're defending, use this number.
And what's cool about all the different numbers, having that many different numbers, is it really diversifies the types of characters you can have. And you can kind of go situationally, crap, I'm going to need somebody who's going to be... It's kind of like picking somebody off the bench, right? Like, I'm going to need somebody right now who has good movement at the end, or I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that. You can pick and choose that way. But, I had one that I discarded at one point that was not very fast, but was amazing at throwing. So you could literally just probably sit him in the middle of the board and have him catch and throw. His range was 10.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he could throw across the board.
Yeah.
So you could just sit in the middle and be like...
Yeah. And there are, of course, continuing with that, it's a great way of continuing that feeling or that mood of a sports game because you have to have a good thrower, but that's not going to win you the game. You've also got to have someone who's good at catching. But then there are also guys that you have on the team to kind of
muscle, the posts.
There are guys that can't even carry the ball. So they're just
Yeah.
there to combat for you. So that's really cool.
It's just a more, we didn't even talk about the backstory. I was going to say it's just a more extreme version of a sports game, right?
Right.
Instead of just muscling, you're killing something else, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, you should give the backstory.
I do, I really want to. If you saw the VOD, you might have already heard the backstory, but just really fast, this was probably my favorite part of this whole game, is there's just like this little backstory at the beginning of the rulebook, and it's basically this queen had this vision of an arena, and so she, with the help of her citizens, built this big arena for sports, and they started this sporting event, and it was doing so well and so popular that she decided to invite people from further out, citizens from further away of the kingdom, and again, it was against her advisors' wishes to do so, because they were worried that the people outside of the kingdom were more brutal and would turn it into a more brutal sport, which ended up happening, and that's why you get the killing and the brutality of it. But it's still this huge game, and everyone like travels from all over to compete or watch it, and it just I don't know, there's just like this little backstory totally just adds so much to it, right? It explains all of the different creatures.
Yeah.
It just
It's
it
like,
makes
why are we
it,
here today? What's going on?
it really makes
Yeah.
it more atmospheric.
But at the
I
same
don't know,
time, it's not like super serious. And,
Yeah, it's really cool. It turned what would be like a normal sports game, I feel, into this just a little atmosphere to it, which I really appreciate. It's very cool.
Yeah, there's aspects of it that do definitely remind me, like we mentioned the video game stuff already, the old school video games. It also kind of reminds me of a lot of newer games, like team-based competitive games, because you do have an option of playing this as a team. There's aspects that reminded me of like MOBAs and things like that as well, or real-time strategy games. There's some elements of that, so it's very cool, all the different elements, and it's certainly one that you're glad that you got a chance to play, because I don't know that, if someone had given me a list of games and descriptions, I don't know if this would have been one of the top ones I would have played, but it's very cool. It's not a world I definitely visit very often, but this is a cool one.
The world of sporting.
Yeah, the sporting world.
The sporting world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's poisonous to me.
It's like Sun and you're a vampire.
Exactly.
The one thing I did want to note, and it's not necessarily a knock against the game, but because there are so many rules and things based on characters and orbs and events, there are a lot of contingencies.
Right.
And a lot of, chances to mess up. And I feel like the characters, not so much. So, like, once you get... These are a lot more self-explanatory, but when you're first playing, with the orbs and that type of thing, just the standard rules, it is a bit confusing and difficult. But it's not that they're... I don't know, there's maybe only one or two rules that I really found confusing. If you watch the VOD, it's all... There's like a 5-minute me just asking about the automatic miss and automatic win.
Oh,
because I was
that
just
a
so
tough one.
confused.
That was a tough one.
Yeah. So there are a couple rules that are kind of confusing, but I think that it's not necessarily a knock against it. It's just, I definitely feel like it's going to take a few times.
Right.
Or at least a couple more times to
to
really
remember everything.
Yeah, to really remember everything and feel like I've got a good grasp on the game.
There was something in the rulebook that's really cool for a variant for younger players. Like if you're teaching younger kids how to play, it suggests some cards you can take out that are more complicated, and some of the rules to change a little bit.
Maybe we
but
should
I
try
almost
that.
think, I think they could have actually had just said, hey, if you want to teach new people how to play in general, it's not even for young kids. I thought that maybe a tutorial basic game might have made it a little bit easier, because one of the hardest things was thinking in terms of branching out. Okay, I could run it myself, I could throw it, I could hand it off, I could, there's all these different options, and if you only had to worry about that at the beginning, and then maybe just some basic stats, then that would be a great base way to learn it, base game.
So if you're playing it for the first time, try that. Don't do what we did.
Try the kids version.
Try the kids version. Not really for kids, no. Yeah, because I do feel like the most complex part of the rule book was dealing with orb manipulation.
Right.
It was like, whoa! I read
those are
that. I
things you
read
can
that
do.
a couple times through, and I was like, okay, I feel like between game-based kill and I will probably get
And
it.
the fact that when you fumble, it's from your own perspective.
That's
Oh.
crazy. That's crazy.
I thought that was really funny.
But
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's cool. But it's,
Well, and I like it too because it just gives that to you. So you're not like, wait, would it be this way or this way? Would the player would the character be facing a certain way? It's like, no, it's just from your end of story.
Right,
Yeah.
where the player's sitting. Yeah.
Taking care of the confusion.
Yeah, because a lot of games definitely leave that up to, hey, you make the decision. It's like, no, I want you to tell me what to do. So I can enjoy the game. I don't have to worry about
coming
I
up
want
you
with
guys
an
to have thought
arbitrary-
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the passing stuff did. I'm still not sure what a good strategy is there. That did confuse me a little bit.
I think I feel like there were some characters that were a lot better at it that we didn't necessarily see into it. And I do feel like if you were to play a team game, you would see a lot more of it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. I don't think we talked about this. You can play this game in teams.
Right.
Yeah, he did mention
No, he said we talked about forming alliances. Like we formed an alliance.
Oh yeah. Well, there is an option to play with
you actually
teams
play
2v2.
2v2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And I do think maybe some of the orbs lend themselves more. We didn't get quite to, like for example, the heavy orb
It's
reduces your range, so you're not likely to pass it as much. The chaos orb, who knows where you'll be.
right.
That did get passed. Though we did see some passes with the leather one. But I
That's
do
how
feel
I
like
read it
the orbs, there might be some more that maybe are
lend themselves to throwing around and getting them across the board.
It's sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say the
Oh, and we had the killer orb too.
Yeah, the killer
So all of the passing ones. Not
And I
so
love that
great.
the rule, there was an addition to the rule that it would happen at the end of your turn. So you had the chance of, or no, wait, did that end up changing?
No, it was the end of your end of that character's turn.
But you could still kill them if, that was only if they
you
didn't
hit them.
get destroyed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Right,
caught it
right,
and didn't get destroyed.
Right.
But I what was I gonna say?
Oh no.
Oh yeah, so I felt like with the passing that you almost wanted to go in reverse order. You know, you always throw it to somebody who hasn't gone yet.
Right.
And so that
so that they can still
fumble it
take
and
their
pick it up.
turn. Yeah.
Although it just kind of seems funny that when you throw it to somebody, you're basically expecting them to fumble, and that the bonus scenario is they caught it. Because then, you throw it to them, they fumble it, they pick it up, they run and throw it to somebody else, they fumble it, they pick it up.
Just chaos, man.
Yeah.
That's the moral of this game is chaos, or the motto. What I think that would have been cool as an addition to the mechanics, and I had thought of this earlier and I just remembered, but making it so that your throw and catch is more directly related to the range of the throw. So say, okay, you can throw it 10, but it's going to be really difficult. But say if you're at a range of 4, then it's far more likely that you'll be able to because
So
of
you
precision.
like maybe range bands, like short range, medium range, long range, and a certain better percentage as it got closer?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I know that would add a lot more complexity, and since you're doing like diagonally and getting all sorts of things like that, it might not work. But I thought that would have been cool and been more realistic because I feel like that's how, if I were going to throw it across the board, it'd probably get fumbled. But if if I was half, then maybe I could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would have been pretty neat.
I do love too, though, thinking about how I could do handoffs, and it seemed very much like how I don't think I've ever even watched a rugby match, but I've seen it on TV played. No, actually, I think I remember seeing some people play one time, and there is a lot of that. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but there is a lot of that. I'm going to run a little bit, then I'm going to throw it to the other guy who's kind of parallel with me, and he's going to kind of, because he's not coming up on an obstacle of people, and he's kind of off to the side, so I can hand it off to him or pass it off to him, and he can run and maybe pass it off to someone else.
That's what you were doing with the heavy one.
Yeah, I was actually able to do that once. I wish that I had a little bit more movement, but overall I was getting probably netting more than what I would have done with just one person by himself.
Well, it seemed like I had all the strong characters. I kept
Yeah,
getting
you
a
did.
ton of
Yeah,
strong characters.
Dragon related.
Yeah, dragon related.
You
Strong
got some
flying.
ridiculous characters.
I did
Strong
have.
flying adept.
I feel like I was so lucky to have the dragon first turn,
Mm-hmm.
and even the Tuatara, he lasted the entire time.
Good old Tuatara.
Yeah, and being adept and having venom,
Mm-hmm.
because attack isn't great, but adept and venom makes him kind of scary.
And a range attacker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I feel like having two very good characters straight off the bat was helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah. I had a pretty good character right off the bat, too.
Are you talking about the human?
Yeah.
He wasn't that great, and you got to bring the gargoyle in.
Yeah, that's true.
He's talking about, if you've seen the VOD, I messed up the rules. But in my defense, that is a
It is
card
very
that was
confusingly worded.
confusingly
Yeah,
worded.
It was
It was
Dispel.
Dispel. I just got
in defense of
fumble. We never got a fumble card, sorry.
yeah, in defense of someone who teaches English, it is very tough to write. I'm sure it is very tough to write rules that are small enough to fit on a
Oh,
garment.
yeah.
Concise and...
But it is, and then a lot of times you don't realize, because normally in English, when you say a sentence, it's okay because people will get it, right? But when you're talking about
flags, so.
but when you're writing rules text, it's so much more technical
Yeah.
and so careful. There's so many ways to misinterpret it that will mess up the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, you may play this at any time, remove any creature or team enchantment from the game. So here was my thought process. I've never played the game before, and I get two of these cards in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
At first I'm like, two must be pretty
common.
pretty frequent.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, this is so strong. I bet I just got really lucky. We had only just shuffled it for the first time.
Right.
I bet I just got two, and I just got really lucky. So then my thought is, okay, well, I can either get a creature or a team enchantment, thinking the individual enchantments must be far rarer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then a creature or team enchantment are just more common. It's fine, which is actually, I don't know.
And it seemed reasonable that way too, because we all drew creatures and we were all playing tons of creatures.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so that just kills a creature. All right, great.
Yeah, and a team enchantment buffs the whole team, whereas a regular enchantment just goes on a person or on one character, but is stronger, I think.
Yeah, and I think maybe some of that confusion also comes from magic.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
creatures are spells, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you can kind of disrupt or interrupt a spell, a
Yeah,
summoning.
you can dispel
Yeah.
spells.
Yeah.
Or you can dispel creatures, yeah.
Yeah. So but what it's saying is any creature enchantment or team enchantment. And I thought it was any creature or team enchantment. So I'm sorry about your human.
Yeah, and I only thought about it until, it took me a little bit, and I was thinking that something about that didn't sound right, and then, the more I thought about it, the more I thought about it.
Yeah, but then by then it was so far.
Oh, yeah, we were several turns past.
Yeah.
Those parallel adjectives.
Don't you know it?
Yeah.
Don't you know it?
The students know it.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have anything to add? I think I've covered it. I really, really enjoyed this game.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I will play this again. That was a
Yeah,
lot of
definitely
fun.
highly recommend it. If you love sports games, then this is not, don't be turned off by the fantasy element. It's definitely a lot of a sports game, even though it is. And if you love those old school games where you got powers and things were crazy and you could blow up characters, but it didn't really matter because you would get more in to replace them.
Yeah.
The crazy take on kind of a standard game, or a crazy take on a different underlying mechanic.
Yeah.
It's a good mix.
And if you don't like sports, it's still a fun game.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
still an awesome game.
Yeah. So,
Anything you want to add? Anything?
highly recommended. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this review, and we will be back soon with another game of our choosing.
We have a couple.
Yes, just a few.
Yeah.
But until then, we hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Later.
Bye.
And scene.
Was that still
Done.
an hour? I want to see if it's... Because we've gotten so close every time.
I know, but I was worried I wouldn't have anything to talk about this game, and we had lots to talk about.
Yeah.
That was 45 minutes.
Oh, cool.
It seemed a little short.